let's acknowledge the good friends of the Loft Party Podcast. The Majestic Restaurant and Pendergast Club, 931 Broadway in Kansas City, Missouri. The J. Rieger Kansas City Distillery, oh so good. Now onto our regularly scheduled program.
Just not getting it.
All right, welcome everybody out there to Good Times with Good People Company proudly presents the Loft Party Podcast, where it is always about good times, good people, and good talk. Please subscribe to the Loft Party Podcast on YouTube, Facebook, or SoundCloud. Be sure to tell a friend you've received your invitation, and welcome to the party. I'm your host and panel moderator, Rio, and let's introduce today's panel. Our returning champion, of course, Chris O'Connor, co-owner of Liquid 9 Broadcast Media. We have Dave Elliott, a.k.a. Big Dave, owner of C&P Construction. Brian Massey, with his few days left as a data analyst at DST Systems. We will update you on his new job because that sounds pretty exciting. And of course, the anonymous female, because she doesn't want you to know her name. So today I decided, instead of just straight saying these are party favors and these are party fouls, we're just going to go through the list. And as we go through each one, we'll decide party favor or party foul as a group.
I got one thing to start off though with the anonymous female.
Yes.
What's wrong with the name Raquel Welch? Why do you have this issue with Raquel Welch?
Who said I had a problem with Raquel Welch?
Okay. Everybody out there, Dave's still an honoring.
Everybody out there, Dave got his wife back, so
Yay!
he's happy.
Hey, you know, I actually had an update I had homework last week.
You did.
So that was regarding the privately run prisons. And so what's interesting is, from what I found, is there are not very many studies. And I was talking to the anonymous female about that. She made a good point that, well, yeah, if you're running privately, you don't have to share any of your data.
Well, unless you're a publicly traded company, you would.
Would these be considered publicly traded?
Sure. I mean, some of them, I'm sure.
Maybe they
Same
could
way
be.
that, for example,
yeah.
Edison schools for a long time were a publicly traded stock. You'd have to share results quarterly. You know,
Yeah, so
things like that.
it would be interesting to maybe take a deeper dive. So I was just looking through any studies that may have already been conducted, and I found one that was by the Wisconsin School of Business, and they found prisons in Mississippi from 1996 to 2004. Prisoners served 4 to 7% longer than inmates serving in similar sentences in public prisons. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
It is interesting.
Money.
So this is the first study to compare the serve time between public and private prisons. Let's see.
Did they say any other factors like overcrowding in public prisons potentially being a reason or things along those lines?
So to the reason, what they suspected is, so first of all, they were talking about how often people would be released, that sort of thing. And they said, well, it's the payroll boards that decide, and those are not affiliated necessarily directly with the prisons. It'd be the same people that are in the private or public prisons. So they're the ones that decide whether a prisoner should be released early. So what's interesting is they suspect that with the private prisons, they do whatever they can to cut costs, which would include hiring less experienced guards. And then those inexperienced guards may be more inclined to hand out violations to inmates, which then affect the decision on whether they should be released.
On the program side?
Yes.
Got it.
It's actually interesting because we were watching, not that this is, empirical fact or anything, but we were watching Orange is the New Black, and this season kind of deals with that, and that was exactly the case on the show. Is that all these new inexperienced guards were handing out shots and violations way more rapidly than the experienced guards, and they were much more aggressive towards the inmates, which of course begot aggression and back from the inmates. So that actually is very interesting information.
It doesn't seem all that different than being like a new cop on the street trying to prove yourself, or, all that kind of stuff, versus a veteran's like, I've seen all this before. Like, let's go after the important stuff. I don't know. So I think you see a lot of that in every profession.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so there's some data to back that up a little bit, which was that those inmates in private prisons were 15% more likely to get an infraction. So,
Okay.
all right.
So what are we thinking? Party favor? Party foul.
Well, that's a party
that's-
foul.
Yeah.
and now we know how this is going to work. So first thing I had on my list for this week, yesterday, the 28th. Was that yesterday? Anyway, was the 53rd annual anniversary of the March on Washington and the I Have a Dream speech. Of course, for those out there in podcast land who are not aware of your American history, that is where Martin Luther King led 250,000 people to gather on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. At the time to protest the treatment that that black people were experiencing in America at the time.
Basically Jim Crow laws.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Basically what it was.
And so I just thought it was interesting that it fell right in time to do a podcast, and I definitely wanted to make sure that I mentioned that. And in closing today, I'm going to instead of trying to find some quote out there in the world, I'm actually going to read an excerpt of the speech that doesn't always get read. That I think everybody remembers the end of the speech with the free at last, free at last. But I think there was something that I felt pertinent to what's going on in today's society that he spoke about earlier in the speech that I'm going to share with everybody. But with that being said, 53rd anniversary of the March on Washington. Party favor? Party foul?
Party favor.
Party
Party
favor.
favor.
Party favor. All right.
Martin Luther King, for me, was definitely a hero of a man. He wasn't perfect in a lot of ways, but none of us are. But he had the power. He had the speech. I think he had a godly way about him. I think God gave him power. I really do. There was something there.
Amen, brother.
And he was able to bring people together and work both sides of the fence.
Absolutely.
And get an understanding of what he wanted. But, as a white guy, I look upon it as he really had it right. He just wanted equality.
Yeah.
Wanted equality. And it worked in a lot of ways because there's a lot of people that of color that have come forward and done amazing things, have done well in their lives. And we have more and more people that are more successful and they're bringing up successful kids. And it's a long, slow process, but they are working their way out of it. Now, on the opposite hand, we have problems like we have in Chicago and things like that. And so, in some ways, I think Dr. King would be very proud of where we are, and in some ways, I think Dr. King would be rolling over in his grave. It's a yin and yang situation for me.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that.
I don't think he'd be proud of an Al Sharpton.
Well, and that's what I wonder. Do you feel like in any way the message of Dr. King and the civil rights movement in general has been hijacked by, I don't know,
Jesse Jackson,
freeloaders and profiteering and that? And it's too bad. Like, I would say to some degree Jesse Jackson, which is horrible because he literally was a good friend and marched with Dr. King all the time. In fact,
Yeah.
I believe he was there when he was shot.
Yeah, it was.
So you see these guys who maybe, again, once you start lifting the laws, so you have Lyndon Johnson who came on with the Civil Rights Act and then the Fair Housing Act and all these things. all of a sudden what you start fighting for, you don't want to become irrelevant, and so you start looking for anything.
Right.
And so now, instead of just being, hey, we're fighting for an equal opportunity, all of a sudden it's becoming,
Now we're fighting for the spotlight.
just silly
Well
things.
said.
You know.
Fighting for the spotlight. I've never have really thought about that way, but that's a good way to put it. They've become hucksters in ways.
To a degree. I mean, in 1964, you were honestly arguing for the right just to vote. Now, the biggest thing that you can argue about is, well, do I have to show an ID when I vote, or not really? You know, I mean, it's just a little. It became trivial. I mean, it to a certain degree, but you know, there's bigger issues.
There you go. That was well said, though. All right, fighting for the spotlight. I like that.
Yeah.
We've already declared party favor on that, so I also thought it was interesting. So yesterday's anniversary of the I Have a Dream speech, and also Michael Jackson's birthday. I thought that was really interesting.
Why did you find that really?
I'm always. Significant dates and significant people to history and culture, it seems like these dates seem like they fall very close to one another, and I always wonder what that means, if it means anything. And so I thought it was interesting that the 28th was the anniversary of the March on Washington, and the 29th is Michael Jackson's birthday. I just thought that was like the proximity of it just makes me wonder about how things connect in ways that we can't see, readily. And so Michael being another figure in pop culture anyway, that was a hero to some, and wacko jacko to others, and I mean, me personally,
I haven't heard that in a long time.
yeah, I know. Me personally, I've always loved Michael. I've never.
Has it been 8 years that he passed?
That's about right.
Because it was only.
Close to that.
Yeah, about 8 years. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's.
Were you born yet?
I mean, he's one of those guys I can tell you exactly where I was when I heard the news. And
Oh, yeah.
everything
Oh,
about it, and
I
the
came
exact
out
time
to
of
the.
day.
Oh yeah, I came
Absolutely.
out to the car and Mario was just sitting there, and I was like, "What's wrong?" TMZ just said Michael Jackson died, and I was like, "TMZ." That is when TMZ changed from.
Just kind of celebrity stalkerazzi to
To
actual news.
telling. Yeah.
I was like.
I actually think it was that story.
Yeah. I think that gave them news credibility,
'Cause they were the first
they
ones
were the
that were-
first to break it. Yeah,
Well, it's because they were just
I think Michael
stalking
Jackson-
outside his home all the time.
yeah, it is true.
I think Michael Jackson, I look at him in a different way a little bit. Because I grew up in the 60s with the Jackson 5 on TV. So we listened to the Jackson 5. I mean, that was one of the cartoons we had. And of course we had Soul Train. So we'd watch American Bandstand and see what's going on in the white world, and then we'd watch Soul Train and get up and learn how to dance. So, but, it's, so you saw this kid and you seen the talent in him, and they were a fun group to watch, and they were a family group, so we liked the fact that they were a family. But the bottom line was that they destroyed him.
The family interesting you brought that up,
The family destroyed him.
because I always
And
thought
the managers and everybody turned him into what it was because they didn't allow him to be a
to
child.
be a kid, exactly.
And so psychologically, it destroyed him and turned him into the wacko jacko he ended up being. And I don't ever think he was really a hateful person, and I don't think he ever truly meant to do any children harm.
Yeah, I think he was trying to be a kid,
But
which
what
he never got to
at
be.
his age made it inappropriate.
No, absolutely. I fully agree. I think he was trying to do things that you would do as a kid, but of course you're a grown man. So I was thinking about, and we talked about one day, we were talking about Justin Bieber. And we were saying, Justin Bieber's done.
You know Justin Bieber, right?
He's done all of
Is
this.
that the Michael Jackson of your
Raquel
time?
Welch is all over you today. What's up with that?
Whoa. I don't even know how to respond to that.
I was kidding.
Yeah, we were just saying that Justin, has had so many kind of trials and run-ins and like, what is wrong with him? And I was like, what's wrong with him? He's 20 years old with $100
Well, at the
million.
time, it wasn't even 20.
Same thing.
Yeah, he's 20 with $100 million. I'm like, that's going to skew your perception.
Your brain's
Well,
not
we-
doing
we talked about that
so
here.
if you're 5 or 6, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you are the definitive breadwinner for your family. At that age, you gotta be fucked up in the head. Like, you gotta be. I couldn't imagine you not being. At least
Well, it's just
not
it's
that
a lot of
it
child
turns you into a
stars.
pedophile, but I think that it
That's
stunts your mental growth.
Listen, I think what the difference is, I think Justin Bieber is incredibly selfish. He's just a young, spoiled kid, just doing dumb shit like all of us would have done with $100 million at age
Yeah.
20. And
Yeah.
hell, I did at 20 with no money.
With no money.
But
Hell with that, I would have retired at that point.
I feel very differently. I put Michael Jackson and Woody Allen in the same category where I can respect you as an artist, I can respect your artwork, and you disgust me as human beings, and I would never do anything to support you or anything of the kind. I think pedophilia is probably one of the most disgusting crimes in the entire world. You have scarred a child who will never get over it, period. And I do think he meant to do harm.
And that
or
may-
he wouldn't have been serving them Jesus juice, as he was calling it.
Maybe that was done to Michael too. We would never know
And
that.
it's possible.
I think
And
that's
so-
strongly possible.
But he knew better. I mean,
Because
I think he
that's the-
clearly knew
Oh, yeah.
he knew to do better, and he was actually inflicting massive harm on kids, and I think he knew it
Oh, yeah.
and did it on purpose and thought he'd get away with it. I mean, it's repulsive. So while I can completely step back and go, man, phenomenal artist, would never lift a finger to buy a record. I wouldn't even listen to it on Spotify. I wouldn't even stream that crap anymore. Just go away. You just made me sick.
Okay. Well, I say so.
Oh,
It sounds
so-
like
Same with Woody Allen to me.
no, but I understand.
love-
But I understand where you're coming from. I guess I've never, and it could just be because I was such a big fan that I didn't want to believe. But I've never really believed that he did anything to the kids more than had.
Getting them drunk on a private airplane and sleeping alone with them and all
Yeah,
that.
well, that's what I was finna say. I think the whole slumber party thing happened definitely, but I'm torn if I believe he was doing it to do something harmful to the kids, or if he just was still trying to be a kid.
You don't
Why
know
else
if
are
it
you
was
serving-
sexual or
why are you
non-sexual.
serving-
Yeah, and I get.
Why are you serving wine out of a Coke can to a child on an airplane?
Yeah, no,
Okay, can we just back up though?
That's
I mean,
inexcusable.
I
and
just-
you only do it for one reason.
whatever he did was not right. Okay? But what was wrong with these parents that let their kids spend the night with a man that didn't have children with him? I mean, why that?
I'm not
Yeah.
excusing parents.
Goes in a lot of places
But-
that way. Yeah.
but
I mean, I think there was a lot of wrong. It wasn't just
Listen,
him.
I agree, but we're not talking about parents. We're talking about him, who should have known better. He's an icon, had everything going for him, and
Mm-hmm.
to pull off something like that repeatedly, and I believe it was a systematic, repeated offense on multiple children, is just, I can't ever get behind that in any way. I find that the most disgusting crime in the world.
So it sounds like we may be quite split on whether this one is a favor or a foul.
Yeah, this one's a foul to me.
All right. So
Yeah, I kind of go foul on that.
I definitely.
With the heavy heart, I go
It's a
foul.
FAFO.
I would be willing to believe the weird, oh, I was just having sleepovers and yeah, it was awkward but not inappropriate, up until the point where you're serving them wine in a Coke can and trying to get a kid drunk.
Yes.
Then I'm like, okay, you know exactly what you're doing. This is a systematic thing that you have going on. Not okay with that.
All right. So, with that being said, finally, we can leave Earth. Or, so scientists think. There has been, outside of our solar system, a planet found, Proxima b. It orbits a dwarf star, Proxima Centauri, that it's bigger than Earth, but it is said that it has enough of a climate that it could support life, they think.
How long does it take to get there?
Well, it's outside of our solar system, so...
The better question is, does it have oil?
well, I think we're still trying to figure out if it has...
Anything.
Yeah, anything. But it's saying it's 25 trillion miles away, so 4.25 light years from Earth. So it's a small.
Well, we
it's a small trip.
Travel at the speed of light, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we do have like
No, we
light
can't. We
speed
cannot
and
travel.
warp drives and stuff, don't we?
in movies.
Single greatest headline I ever read was from The Onion. When they said NASA discovers distant planet located outside funding capabilities. Which I think is so brilliant.
That is funny. Because I think that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
It may very well be fully habitable and just outside of funding capabilities.
$50 billion short.
So, planets that we could possibly move
Is
to,
that the business contingency for all the 1%?
Exactly.
They'll pull their money in and
But hey,
figure out how to get a bridge there.
well, I say we're going to Proxima B. I don't know about y'all, but we out of here. So, do we think the discovery of such a planet is party favor or party foul?
That's a huge
Party
favor.
favor.
I would say party
Find
favor.
out more about our universe. It's incredible.
It is actually very incredible.
Because my name's Dave, and I want to go cruise with Hal and go see Jupiter.
You know,
Then I'm going to enter this fanciful world with different things out there as I float through it while doing hallucinogens. And Hal's going to talk to me in this nice, calm voice, Dave.
There you go. So we talked about on the last podcast that Hope Solo did a little angry tweeting and just said some things she should not have said about the Swedish team, calling them cowards, and the U.S. women's soccer team suspended Hope Solo for, I want to say, for a month.
Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Statement.
6 months.
In the amount of time it takes them to recuperate from the Olympics?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. So I was thinking they probably should have suspended her for the unsportsmanlike conduct. 30 days just didn't seem like that was very much to me.
Yeah, that's a favor foul.
But
She can still play, though, in the private leagues that she's in, like the FCKC League and all that kind of stuff.
she could.
But she's not going to play with the Seattle Reign.
That's what I was at. Seattle, is that their name?
I think the Reign is their...
The Sounders is
Yeah, I think
there.
that's there. Yeah, men's and Sounders was right.
Yeah. So
So she's not playing with them?
no, she's not going to play with them for a while. I think she took a leave of absence from them too.
Yeah, she probably.
She needs to take a leave of absence from everything.
Yeah,
She
you know,
needs to do what Kanye did and go to another country for a little while and lay low.
Calm it down.
They will kill her in another country right now.
Another person who's a little too full.
She needs to go to the mountains or something.
Yeah, so I guess the question is,
Solo at that.
yeah, there you go. I guess the question is, Hope Solo. We can do this one of two ways. Hope Solo or Hope Solo getting suspended?
You
Well,
have it
suspended is a
down as
favor.
suspended,
So Hope
so that
Solo-
would be a favor.
So Hope Solo getting suspended, party favor.
Right.
Hope Solo,
In general.
right.
Party foul.
Massive.
Hope Solo in general, party foul.
And you met Hope
Okay.
Solo, right? And been-
She, strange
said
story,
she was
but
the-
my wife had a flower shop down in Westport, and right behind it, so it's in the building where the Tivoli is and all that kind of stuff. So the building that connected, or the office that connected to hers, was a giant dance studio. So when she was in town promoting Dancing with the Stars when she was on it, they actually used that space, her and her partner, to train for, Dancing with the Stars. She was getting ready for the show and stuff. So she was there for about 3 hours, and my goddaughter loved soccer and was a goalie. So Paige immediately calls Avalon and says, "Oh my God, Hope Solo is like right next door. Do you
Oh,
want
wow.
to come down and meet her and try to get an autograph?" or
Right,
whatever?" And Hope Solo refused to sign
Oh,
her
wow.
goalie gloves, told her to get lost that they were practicing for Dancing
Oh,
with the
that
Stars,
is
and told her
horrible.
to get out.
Well, when
It was
she
an
was
8-year-old
on,
girl.
yes, when she was on
Wow.
Dancing with the Stars, she was having all those problems then too.
Yeah.
The same stupidity.
Yeah, she was like a complete a-hole.
Yeah.
In the construction industry, we have a saying, you can't stop stupid.
Party
I think that's just saying in life,
Well, unless she got accused of beating the crap out of, her sister or whatever?
something
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that.
somebody.
A family member.
Ugh. So they said there's the governor of Maine. So he got some as the laughter starts. Everybody already knows this story out there in podcast land. So the governor of Maine,
I don't.
he gets criticized for. Wait, let me find it. Okay, so he was doing a speech, and during the speech, he said that he had kept this like binder full of mugshots, and that 90% of them were blacks and Hispanics, and amongst other things that he said.
Like in Maine?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, exactly, exactly. So, amongst other things that he said, so the governor. Paul, his name, this gentleman, Paul LePage, he basically said that he thought that what he was saying in his speech sounded racist, and so this guy, the governor of Maine, calls Mr. LePage and leaves him a very colorful voicemail that went something to the effect of, I want to talk to you about your comments about me being a racist, you fucking cocksucker. I want you to prove I'm a racist. I have spent my life helping black people, and you lying son of a bitch, socialist cocksucker, as he continued to berate him with expletives. I am after you. And so I wasn't going to do anything particularly political on today's podcast, just because the last couple three have been dominated by it. But we were talking about having a level of decorum holding office. Apparently, this guy lost his damn mind for a minute. Dave?
As a former resident of the state of Maine,
Yes.
the Maine governor is the lowest paid governor in the union. His wife actually waits table at a restaurant, because I don't think he makes something like, I want to say it's $80,000 a year or something like that, which is not nothing to sneeze at, but
But as a governor,
as a governor, it's not much.
But what does that have to do with
Well,
him cussing out
because
somebody?
if you have never been to the state of Maine and understand the people in the state of Maine, he's right in charge with the rest of them. That's exactly how they are. They don't suffer no fool gladly. They're going to tell you exactly what they think.
So
It is hilarious.
when I read the story, all I could hear is Dave saying this in his best New England accent.
But you would say it like this. I would be a cocksucker from the state of Maine if I told you I wasn't something else like that, huh?
I still think this mugshot book amounts to about 4 people. Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I'm like the state of Maine.
Well, most of the people I know in the state of Maine have a mugshot, so that's all I'll say.
Right. And 1 out of 3 people have a mugshot.
Right.
So therefore,
Why is that a problem?
This notion of chivalry and decorum in politics, I think, is the biggest myth. I mean, if you go back to the founding of our country, Aaron Burr shooting Thomas Jefferson, not Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, and killing him in a duel.
Yeah.
You have literally people getting in fights on the congressional floor and caning each other.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been going on forever.
Can't you just picture
Politics 101.
our current Congress caning each other? Can't you just picture
the
that?
funny thing is when we look at other countries, they still devolve into full brawls on their
Wasn't it
on their
last year when we
legislative
saw
floor.
the guy in England jump over
Jump over the table had to do? Yeah. Like,
And I want to say,
might
what
not have been
happened?
England.
What happened to Harry Reid? Do we really know what happened to old Harry? You know, he wore sunglasses for a long time. Just saying.
I think once they shut those doors to their offices and they're trying to make some deals, I bet it gets a little colorful.
Oh, it gets real colorful.
yeah.
Just
Yeah, I think,
probably
yeah,
not
that-
a bad idea to
Yeah.
perhaps not make the phone call or the email or the
Right.
text.
There you go.
Just let's have a chit chat in person.
Yeah. They
I'll
may
meet you
not.
at the Denny's and we'll discuss it.
They may not go ape shit on C-SPAN, but behind closed doors.
Well, you catch them all the time when they forget their mics are off on commercial breaks, and all of a sudden, like, you dumb motherfucker, you know, they're yelling at each other and all that, and they don't realize their mic is still on, and
That
the
is
sound engineer
hilarious.
is catching and posting it.
That is hilarious.
They do that on purpose.
Oh, that's
Those
funny.
sound guys.
Oh hell yeah, they do, because it's funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Makes for great TV.
So, the governor of Maine and his expletive written voicemail. Party favor or party favor?
I gotta list that as a favor.
I'm a favorite. I am a favorite.
You know, he said exactly what he thought. God bless
I'll
him.
tell you the other thing that I think is difficult, and this is why maybe I would be very tempted to go off in the same fashion, is being called a racist is one of those, it's like being called homophobic or being called anything. You actually have there's no way to defend yourself against that. You lose either way.
Right.
You know, if you say, no, I'm not, then, you know, I have all these black friends. They're like, see, everybody says that.
Yeah, right.
That's the same line. And then if you go, yes, I am, then, well, you clearly lose. You know,
You clearly lost.
there's no way to get around it.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And again, I've talked about this before on the podcast where I have a very, very large issue where you can't even talk about race at all in this country without somebody going racist.
Yeah.
And like you just can't have a discussion period about race without it devolving into that. The same with gay rights, same with anything. It always devolves into this. You just can't have the discussion.
Yeah,
So
but
it
which makes me sad because, I mean, this group withstanding, I think you're absolutely right. I think.
How about this? You can't have a national conversation.
No,
about it
absolutely
without
not.
I mean, Mario and I even dressed the same.
Yeah, there you go. But
Our dress is a little bit.
I say we found teal.
Our teal on
We
today,
found our teal linen.
You know, our
You know.
good shirts.
You guys look
Looking
good.
sexy.
Brian's got a darker color of it.
Yeah. I say you got your dark teal on.
Raquel Welch even gave me a good look.
And you all have gray on.
All right, so this next one just kind of got my goat. I am a big proponent for fairness when it comes to, especially, we've had many discussions
Business.
on the podcast about when things should be government run, when things shouldn't be, when businesses shouldn't overstep or overreach, and when government shouldn't step overreach. This happens to be a business thing, And that's why I named this, how much for my EpiPen? Because the price of a pack of EpiPens went up from $100 to almost $600.
Oh, that's for 2 of them.
Exactly.
So $300 per EpiPen.
Exactly.
Now-
And that's
And they didn't
just-
have a good reason for it.
No. It's just ridiculous because there are people who need.
If you fill syringe with the compound that's in the EpiPen,
Mm-hmm.
how much do you think that cost? That liquid that's in that syringe cost? Just take a wild guess.
50 cents.
I'm gonna say $5 probably.
Yeah, well, again, I think, are you talking just manufacturing or the development, all the way
No,
through
not development.
everything?
What you actually, if you go down to pharmacy.
No, what I mean is
I
that,
come from a family of pharmacists.
sure, but there's inherent cost to developing the drug. It takes 7 years
Right,
to
right,
market.
but what do you
it's
buy it
the
for right now?
Oh, just the drug, not the EpiPen.
Not the EpiPen, just the drug. The EpiPen has this compound in it. You stick
Right.
it in your thigh. That's
Right.
the only one place you stick it. And it injects it into you. It makes it quick for people that don't have time to load a syringe and
Right.
stick themselves, all right?
Right.
$3.
Wow.
All right, so what you're doing is you're totally buying the delivery system, right?
Okay.
Okay, so the girl that is CEO of this company now
Right.
happens to be the senator mentioned from, I didn't know if I could say it right, the senator from West Virginia happens to be his daughter.
Oh.
Oh,
Okay.
all right, she was making $2 million a year, or 1.2, I'm sorry, it's not like $1.2 million a year. And now she's making $12 million a year.
Jeez.
So, what happened is that the other companies, getting the compound in the thing, the FDA started giving them trouble about their delivery system. So she basically ended up with a monopoly,
Ah.
which not should happen in the United States. We
So-
are a capitalist competitive system. So if the other companies do not have the ability to be approved by the FDA,
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
so you tell me what type of politics went on here. It doesn't take a fool to figure this out.
No, that one seems pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, that one's
This was politics.
yeah.
As much as you hate to say it or go back to it or look at it in any other way, this was politics. This is one hand taking care of the other hand, and this is how it ended up. And of course, somebody was smart enough to see it
Yeah.
and blow it up and put it on the media. That's where
Well-
the media does good things.
It's because people that could afford it couldn't afford it anymore.
Right, but the media got a hold of it and
Yeah.
did the good thing with it. Media
Yeah.
does bad things, media also does good things.
It was really a little annoying too when they first broke the story. She was like, somebody from the company was like, well, most insurances cover it. Okay, but then again, we go back to you're making the insurance companies pay for something. They're going to get their money back.
Right.
And why are our costs escalating?
Yeah.
Steadily escalating.
Bingo, there you go. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do
Doesn't
it.
mean you should.
Right.
It's, in my construction business, you guys have heard me say this 100 times. I run a legitimate business. I do things right. I don't cheat. I'm always out underbid by people that cheat. Well, I got a particular builder out there right now who called me up today to say that his main carpenter is getting audited and he hasn't been doing business right and he's probably going to be out of business. And now he's got a whole bunch of houses to build and then once in a while, how many crews I can give him?
Ah.
Did you tell him none?
What goes around comes around.
Did you
Well-
say you could sell me your business?
So,
If that,
well, you have to pay my price, but my price will be a fair price. All I've ever wanted in business is a fair profit. I work hard, I pay my men well, I perform a good service. I deserve to be paid a fair profit. Bottom line. And these companies should operate in the same way.
There we go.
And each company, each place you are in business allows you to make a certain amount of money. So if you have a service that's above everybody else's, you make a little more money. and on back down again.
Okay.
But we all have our tiers of what we're gonna make.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's a foul?
I'm going to say,
Huge foul.
and I'm going to say that that's probably a party foul.
I'd say it's definitely a party foul.
Are we in agreement?
I don't know.
Absolutely.
Party foul?
There's no other way to look at it, especially after hearing the explanation of it. That
Now,
makes
you-
a lot more sense.
You'll get my backup on that every time. It's hard,
All right.
because I'm all about good, honest, hard-working business.
All right. So that is a party foul. I cannot remember if I mentioned in a former podcast, but I did want to briefly mention about the earthquake victims in Italy. 290 people killed. We got whole towns left ruined. They just had a state funeral that they had like 35 or 6 caskets in one funeral, and that is obviously a huge party foul. And I just want to say, from the Loft Party Podcast, we are sending out prayers to all of the families and everybody affected over in Italy. So collectively, I'm pretty sure we can all say that's a party foul. But I want to something that I think might be a party favor. There's a teen pilot that won the world record for an around the globe solo trip. His name's 18. He's 18 years old, and Lachlan Smart is his name. And he touched down in Eastern Australia on Saturday, and he became the youngest person to fly solo in a single-engine aircraft around the world.
Wow.
And
Awesome.
I thought that was
Huge favor.
a huge favor, and
Just think what that young man could conquer the rest of his life.
absolutely, I was
You
just
know, you've taken that challenge such early on in life, you can conquer a lot. And I'm all about young people that conquer themselves. And that's what life for me is all about, conquer ourselves and myself every day.
Yeah, that's remarkable. That's great.
yeah. So it was definitely something that I saw that I was like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. So I was just thinking, at 18, I was doing nothing constructive.
I was trying to stay out of jail.
Basically, that was about it. I was trying to stay out of jail, trying to stay out of trouble. That was about the size of it at 18.
Yeah.
And this 18-year-old kid's flying
Flew around the world, I was a
thinking
total
that.
failure.
Yeah, I was thinking that is pretty impressive. And last but not least, Colin Kaepernick and his sit stance to the national anthem during one of the games, and he of course was saying that he's standing or sitting for the injustices that are going on with police shootings and mistreatment of African Americans in today's society. And I want to know what the group thought about that. It looks like Brian is chomping at the bit. What's going on?
I don't know that I'm chopping at the bit. I just find it interesting. You know, that's we were talking about this earlier, and I was thinking the same thing that you were, anonymous female, that you were mentioning, which was, you know, you may have issues with how things are going, but you don't really seem to have a problem pulling a check from how the system here works. And so I think if you, I'm trying to think of a good way to put this. You know, I think we all agree that there are issues happening right now, and there are better ways to take a stance, no pun intended, against it, than
During the national
than
anthem?
during the national anthem, because, you know, I don't know, to me that's almost doing more harm than good, right? I mean, you got to be there to support. To me, it's almost like giving up. as like, there's no turning back, so I'm not going to support anything about it. And it's like, no, you know, we got to work together towards making this better, whatever issues you have, and bring it up a different way. Than it seems kind of immature. Actually, it seems very immature. I don't agree with it.
You know, I was trying to earlier when I was putting the podcast together. I was really thinking about the 60s and early 70s when you did have a lot of athletes that were taking stances during the civil rights movement.
Sure.
And so, to me, it seems as if, excuse me, that's his intent, but I don't know if this was the way to protest it. You know, I think there are other ways to lend your voice. There's other ways to lend your time. There's other ways to lend your talent. I can't remember a player during the civil rights era that did a lot of heavy protesting, but I can't remember a player that wouldn't stand for the national anthem.
So you go back to the Olympics. I can't remember what they called that
The
statue.
1968 Olympics in Mexico
Yeah.
City.
But they did the fist in the air. They had the unity of nations or whatever they had on there, but they still stood and still sang the national anthem.
Which is the reason that I say there are other ways, there are better ways. I can't say that I'm sure. Excuse me. That I'm sure Colin will hear this, but if you do, standing with your fist in the air, power to the people, is a much more effective protest and will incite less rancor than sitting for the national anthem. I know he has the right to do it. But is it the right thing to do? I guess that's my question to the table.
Well, my intro into that is he has, as an American, every right to do that. It is a free country to express yourself in whichever way you choose to express yourself. But he's also an employee of the NFL. He's also being paid, I believe, $14 million a year. Signed a massive contract.
Something like that, yes.
Okay.
It's a $60 million
So now this man is being paid. And being an MU fan, I'm going to tie this into the student 5, whatever that was. I can't remember. Is that 510, 590? Protest that the players at MU did when they were going to boycott. It boils down to this. You are an employee of this team. You are a representative of that league. I've never seen the league turn around and tell you that you couldn't have your opinion in your time. But you do represent the league, and you need to, I felt like I had trouble with the Rams players when they came out with the hands up. That is, you have a right to do that, but at the same time, this is the NFL, people watch it, and you need to do that on your private time. And that's how I see it. Colin Kaepernick is a multiracial person that was adopted by a white family. He has been given every opportunity in this world to succeed. And I do believe that he, obviously by his play, he's a flawed individual right now in where he's thinking. Because you've been paid. And now you have to perform. And that's what the job is. I also question his thought. Now, one of the quotes I found very interesting today, too, is that you got to be careful here where he's going, because what didn't get quoted is that he's very upset with Hillary and the Clinton Foundation for what she did for pay for play. That was also in his quote. Now, that never got out in the media, did it? nor will it.
Not that I found one.
It will come out in some sources, it will never come out in others. This is part of our problem, we've all discussed that ad nauseam. But, you know, you need to look at a lot of different issues. He's kind of bagging on the cops and the things, and they make mistakes. The cops are people too, and they're held to a higher standard, certainly. But at the same time, are we also addressing what's really going on in the urban areas, the killings, that what's going on in Chicago, what's going on in Baltimore? There's the people in the hoods. By and large, a lot of them are pretty damn good people. And they're just trying to get by, and they're poor, and they're just trying to get by on their daily basis, and they work, and some of them work 2 or 3 jobs, trying to support their families. But you got a bunch of hoods down there dealing drugs and their turf and all this stuff. I would appreciate it if more, I would appreciate him more if he would have brought that up, saying that we have to work towards making that change. We have to enrich ourselves to be able to raise ourselves up somehow and start snitching out these guys and getting rid of them. Those are the people that need to be incarcerated, not some guy dealing pot.
Right.
These guys, these are bad dudes, lock them up. You look at them bad and they shoot your ass. Lock them up. That's what I want to see one of these guys come out and say, hey, there's this, but there's also this. But they don't say that. They're only saying this. So now you have the problem. The police aren't going to go into the neighborhoods as much because they don't want to be accused of anything. And the murder rates are skyrocketing. And that's a fact, and it has to be said. And that's the one thing beautiful about our podcast, is that we can't say that to each other. We can sit here and talk to each other. We're going to yell across the table at each other.
No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
but these are facts of life that's hard to deny anymore. Really? Let's let the police protect the good people. Let's get the damn bad people and lock their bass asses up. And that's what he should, if he really wanted to take a stand, that's the stand he should take.
So do you think, I mean, I have 2 questions on this. Do you think he had this plan for a while? And what do you think he's going to do on the next game?
to me, it seems like a spur of the moment thing. You know, I don't know. I don't think that he would have planned. I mean, not you know, weeks in advance, but maybe a couple, maybe days, maybe, that he knew he was going to do it. And I hope due to the just the backlash that he's been getting. I mean, I think some of it is a little ridiculous. People burning his.
There's always people that go off the chart.
Yeah. People burning his jersey and all that kind of stuff, and and I think a lot of that stuff is ridiculous because, like I say, he has the right to protest in the way that he feels that he can or should. My question just comes back down to, I don't know if I think that this was the right.
He will suffer the consequences or reap the rewards from what you do.
Exactly.
And if you make that type of decision, then you've stuck your neck out there and you've left yourself open to whatever those consequences and rewards are, correct?
Yeah, correct. Chris?
Yeah, I'm actually all in favor of it. I thought it was, the fact that we're sitting here now talking about it meant that it was semi-effective. Do I think there's better ways to maybe handle it? I don't know. But I'll tell you, you can only do what you can do. I do not agree with the argument of, well, he's rich, so we shouldn't, he has no right to take a stance on anything.
Right.
I discount his, viewpoint just because he makes $60 million on his football contract. I think he's
62 actually.
Yeah, over the lifetime, guaranteed money, I believe. So I thought it was exceptionally effective, and yeah, the reaction he's getting, okay, it's too bad, but it just shows you how polarizing of an issue it is.
Yeah.
And again, my problem.
Which kind of gets back to what you were saying earlier about the inability to nationally to have real race conversations.
Right.
Yeah, it really
Right.
bothers me. And again, I will go back to my disdain for and I guess it's not really disdain, my biggest issue with the Black Lives Matter movement is all Black Lives Matter, so start on with black on black crime, which is disproportionately higher, by exponentially higher than cops killing black people for no reason. Now, I think, having said that, one is a governmental abuse of power. You could make the argument, and so that makes you feel helpless, and where the others are a lot of gang shootings and things like that. But so what? If Black Lives Matter, then
Then
work
they
on it
are
all the way around. Don't just start going, hey, there's been 5 incidences of cops shooting black kids this year that have been publicized, and so we're going to get all over this, and now we have a national epidemic. I don't believe that we do. But the fact that we are, 4 or 5 people sitting here in Kansas City, Missouri, talking about it, and he had the power of a national stage to do what he did, and it started yet another conversation. Great. To me, this is a favor, and while I might not always disagree with or agree with his politics, certainly, I love the fact that he did it, because it gets people talking again. And the more conversations you can have, and the more dialogue you can have about these things, hopefully the better it'll be. That part I'm all in favor of. I also want to see, at some point, and this is just coming from a white dude's perspective, so just acknowledge that. I think so many problems within the black community can be cured within the black community without pointing to other people and go, come fix all these problems for me.
I agree.
For example, if somebody commits a crime and all of a sudden nobody saw it, bullshit. I mean, come on.
Right.
If I saw my neighbor shoot somebody else, I'd be like, dude, he's the one who just shot my buddy.
Him right there.
Get him out.
I was the guy.
Yeah.
I want him gone.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the kind of things that really disturb me on a cultural level that are hard to overcome.
Yeah.
So, and again, not growing up in the inner city, I did not, and not understanding necessarily culturally everything that African Americans go through, especially in the urban city. I will say that the murder rate has declined dramatically over the last 20 years. So I don't know that we're seeing a rise in crime by any stretch. I think it's actually declined tremendously.
Yeah, I think there are pockets.
We've just seen a recent spike in the last year.
Well, I think overall it's
is,
declined.
I think you're seeing a lot more attention being paid to the crimes as opposed to this is an epidemic. And I think, yes, you can make an argument that there's pockets of places where it's risen, but nationally it's gone way down. And I also think, I just watched this bizarre documentary on El Chapo. There were 2 brothers in Chicago who partnered up with him, and that's why there's so much inner city fighting.
Yeah.
It is really Mexican drugs coming into Chicago, and now you have this enormous turf war for what is billions and billions and billions of dollars of illegal drug money that literally is from El Chapo's gang.
Well, the interesting thing.
Well, actually, I've got to cut it off right there. But I think that was a good place to cut it off.
That's a favor foul.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with that, because I do think that the fact that he protested is a favor. I'm not 100% sure if I agree with how he protested, but
I'm calling that a 50-50.
yeah,
I like
but
that we get
That's
both
fair.
sides.
I'm a 50-50 on
So,
that.
I'm glad.
That's a good and bad situation.
I will say the best thing that Dave reminded me of, and that I think is important to everybody, is just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean that it comes without consequences for doing it. And so, if you're willing, yes, you have the right to do whatever you want. You also have the right to take the consequences that come along with it. And so we'll see what happens. So.
all right.
But the NFL does not make you stand up for the NFL, for the national anthem. It is encouraged but not required.
But not required.
Right, that's true.
What's that?
I read that today.
That's going to change. That'll probably change it.
Yeah, I'm sure that will change. But so I've got this excerpt from the I Have a Dream speech that I want to read, and before we close out today's podcast, and it is obvious today, and this is just so amazing that this was 53 years ago. So it is obvious today that America has defaulted on the promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity in this nation. And so we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. So with that, the great words of Martin Luther King, I'm going to end this podcast in the way I end all podcasts, and that is with the toast that for me started it all, and that is to good times with good people.